Hare Krishna. Welcome to another evening in the lives of the Vaisnava Acharyas. My name is Chaturatma Das. Very happy to see so many devotees with us tonight. And we're looking in the chat room a little ahead of schedule, and we see many of our regular listeners. Kartik Devi Dasi is there, and Mauricio I see is there. Dr. Patrick, I believe I have not seen you before. If you'd like to just let us know where you're listening in from. And Ya Devi, I believe you might be a first-time one as well. I see Ya Devi and Foot Duster speaking in a language I do not recognize, and I wouldn't even venture to guess what language that is. So if you all would like to let us know where you're joining from, we'd appreciate it very much. So, Bosnian. Okay, there we go. Yes.
That's why you didn't recognize it.
That's why I didn't recognize it. Okay, well, thank you so much. Tonight we're going to take a journey. Of course, every week we take a journey. We take a journey listening to some saintly background about a wonderful Vaishnava, and we journey into their life. But today we're going to take a different kind of journey. We're approaching Gaur Purnima. Everyone's aware of this, I'm quite sure. And as we approach Gaur Purnima, devotees are becoming more and more absorbed in the life, the pastimes, the activities, the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In Sri Dham Mayapur right now, hundreds upon thousands of devotees are gathered for the purpose of glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and associating together on his appearance day. Right now also, many of these devotees are regularly going on what has come to be known as Sri Navadvip Parikrama. And this means that the devotees will go to all the different holy places of Lord Chaitanya and visit the places where he did that, or visit the places of the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's a very wonderful activity. I've unfortunately myself never done it, this Navadvip Dham Parikrama, as it's done nowadays. I did have the good fortune in 1986 of traveling on Padayatra. And Padayatra was just winding down the All India tour, which I had also caught at a couple of other places, and finishing up into Sri Dham Mayapur for the 500th anniversary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. So we went through all these different villages. It was very, very nice mood, very wonderful activity. And this is not something new. This is something that all of the acharyas throughout our Vaishnava line have done. One of those acharyas, of course, is our dear most Narottam Das Thakur. And this is what we're going to discuss tonight. In the Bhakti Ratnakara, I'll just hold it up here so you can see Bhakti Ratnakara. There we go, right there. Bhakti Ratnakara. This is a very, very wonderful book written by Narahari Chakravarti, and it is available, unpaid advertisement here. It's available here at Krishna.com. I do recommend, if you don't have a copy, you should get a hold of a copy. It's wonderful to read. In the 8th wave, as Narahari Chakravarti calls his chapters, in the 8th wave, the 8th chapter, is the description of Narottam Das Thakur traveling to Navadwip and visiting all the different holy places associated with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Navadwip area. This would be Navadwip, Mayapur, Shantipur, all of these different surrounding areas. So tonight, as we prepare within the next 8 days for the arrival of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the celebration of his arrival, and a special treat next week, which I'll hold and won't tell you. You'll have to come in and see, tune in and see. And so we're going to read from the Bhakti Ratnakara with, a little input from myself as we go through the pastime of Narottam Das Thakur visiting the holy place of Sri Navadwip, as told to us through the medium of Bhakti Ratnakara. So those of you that are out there, we recommend you get comfortable and be sure the volume's turned up nicely, and just let the words take you to this most holy place. So we'll start with the invocation that is offered at the beginning of each chapter. And this one here is as follows. All glories to Lord Gaurachandra, the son of Sachi. All glories to Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Acharya. All glories to Gadadhar Pandit and Srivas Pandit. All glories to Vakreshwar Pandit, Murari Gupta, Haridas Thakur. All glories to Gauridas Pandit, Sri Sarup Damodar, and to all the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to the readers of this book who are full of divine qualities. Now, please listen attentively as I continue my narration. This is a very wonderful thing to note how Narahari Chakravarti starts this by offering his praise to the Vaishnavas, by offering his praise to the glories, by appreciating the Vaishnavas. And he lists as the Vaishnavas not only Mahaprabhu, but all of Mahaprabhu's associates. But then, at the very last of this, he says, and all the readers of this book. So who are those readers of this book? Personalities like yourself, personalities like myself, that are trying to absorb ourselves in the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This means that we have some good qualities. By the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, we have a desire to raise our consciousness. Therefore, according to Narahari Chakravarti, he should offer respects to us and encourage us in this. So this is what he does here. Sri Narottam Das Thakur started for Navadvip with the memory of Lord Gauranga in his mind. When he arrived at the outskirts of Navadvip, he reminded himself that Navadvip was Lord Gauranga's place of pastimes, where the residents spent their days in Sri Harinam Sankirtan. It is here that festivals took place in each and every house of the devotees, and that the residents cared not for the routines of their daily lives. An unhappy person could not be found in Navadvip, because every day everyone saw Lord Gauranga. Just imagine like this. Now, an amazing thing is that after appreciating the glories of Navadvip, and after appreciating all the wonderful things that took place there, and what bliss this must have put all the residents in, Narottam takes a completely different point of view. And when he takes that point of view, what he says is that I am the most unfortunate. I am filled with great misfortune. Now, as we speak about the pastimes in Narottam Das Thakur, we certainly don't assume this to be the life of someone who is filled with misfortune. But why does he consider himself misfortunate? Because, as he says, I was not born at the time of Lord Chaitanya's manifested pastimes in Navadvip. He thought in this way, and becoming absorbed in these pastimes, he began to shed tears and feel great amounts of separation. And at the same time, he was enchanted by the beautiful atmosphere of Navadvip. So we can just see the two moods that are going on simultaneously in Narottam's consciousness. A mood of separation, a mood of great lamentation that he was not there during Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and a mood of great appreciation at how wonderful this place he's staying in is. So, in this way, he began to think about the residents of Vrindavan at that time. Not of Vrindavan, well, it is Vrindavan, technically, but the residents of Navadvip, how they would have been singing and dancing in the streets, and how they would have kept each other's association, and how they would have very, very much appreciated being able to have this opportunity. So, absorbing himself in this way, as I mentioned, he became filled with ecstatic emotions and shedding tears, and there arose in his mind a very grave sensation, and he was able, through this mood, to see all of Nadia floating in an ocean of misery. Now, one might question, how is it that Nadia would be floating in an ocean of misery? What would cause this? And as he thought about this, he was also puzzled. And he sat down underneath a beautiful banyan tree. And as he sat under this beautiful banyan tree, the influence of this very place he was sitting removed all of his fatigue. And he was able to regain his patience and his presence of mind. As he began to think in this way, an elderly Brahmin came forward. This elderly Brahmin saw from a distance, here's a young boy sitting under the banyan tree. The Brahmin was very eager to go and speak with him, because this Brahmin would come regularly and sit underneath this tree, because this was the tree, one of the trees, which the child Nimai would play under on a daily basis. So when Narottam saw the Brahmin, he thought, oh, this must be a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a devotee in Navadwip. So he saw him, they saw each other, and they offered immediate obeisance, appreciating each other as a devotee of the Lord. It mentions the Brahmin was very, very attracted by Narottam's well-built form, his beautiful complexion, his large lotus-like eyes that shed tears of love. So he could understand Narottam was a great devotee. So the Brahmin approached him and he asked, what is your name? Where are you from? So Narottam humbly bowed down and explained, I'm Narottam. I am from such and such place. I'm doing this right now. He gave him the entire history. The Brahmin was so happy. He told him, the Brahmin told Narottam, that he could not begin to describe the happy pastimes of Nadia unless he had 4 or 5 mouths. Not with one mouth could this be done. I would need 4 or 5 mouths to explain this. He said, unfortunately, Nadia has now become a barren land. Since Nimai of Nadia, Sri Chaitanya has left, the life force of the very city has also left. The Brahmin couldn't bear to think of Nimai's existence as a sannyasi. He had only known him as a young boy. He couldn't bear to think of the beautiful blackish hair of Nimai Pandit being removed. He had always been accustomed to seeing Nimai Pandit dressed in the most opulent of cloth. How is it possible he could think of Nimai only in a kopan? The Brahmin went on to say that since the inhabitants of Nadia had been deprived of the sweet association of the Lord, their unhappiness knew no limits. The Brahmin explained how when they received the news from the people who came from Nilachala, that was the only news that brought them any happiness. And then, of course, the sudden disappearance of Nimai in Nilachala was an incredible shock for the residents of Nadia. Their associates of Nimai soon, one after another, began to disappear. They left also. And that was a miserable condition for those that were not leaving, that still were residing in Nadia. Day by day, the Brahmin said, Nadia sank into the depths of utter darkness. And with the disappearance of Srivas Pandit and other of the immediate associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the increased gloom of darkness prevailed throughout Nadia. The Brahmin then became very disheartened as he mentioned the name of Vishnu Priya, the wife of Nimai, the embodiment of the goddess of Lakshmi, a woman of exalted devotional qualities. She had also left this world only a few days before. The disappearance of Nimai burnt the hearts of the residents of Nadia, and those who retained any breath appeared to be almost devoid of life. The inhabitants of Navadwip had become impatient and cried out the name of Nimai both while sleeping and while awake. They continuously talked about the divine character of Nimai, and they shed tears when they remembered him. Even wicked people in Nadia were disheartened by the absence of Nimai. The Brahmin then spoke very degradingly of his own position, saying that he had not realized the true importance of Nimai when he was in Nadia, and had considered him only to be an exalted human being. Although according to Vaishnava scriptures, Nimai was an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, the Brahman had known him from his very childhood, but had never recognized him as such until after he departed. So in this way, we see this Brahman's describing the pitiful condition of the residents of Nadia. So he and Narottam sat underneath the banyan tree, and they were very, very happy in each other's association, company. The remembering the beautiful scene of what Nadia had been like. He told Narottam how one day he had actually visualized Satchidananda surrounded by a large number of disciples underneath that very tree. He fainted to the ground upon this sight and considered that Nimai and his associates were eternally present. And so in this way the Brahmin daily came to sit under this tree hoping to get this vision again. It was the wish of Nimai Pandit, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that the Brahmin would meet with Narottam Das Thakur. The Brahmin blessed Narottam Das Thakur and offered him his best wishes that he might remain a favored devotee of Nimai. Now you notice through this description, just a little insert here, that the Brahmin is continually referring to Lord Chaitanya as Nimai. He doesn't describe him as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those are my words when you hear them. He doesn't describe him as Lord Chaitanya. He describes him as Nimai, because this is the only form of the Lord that he knew him at. This is the dear form that's treasured in his heart. So this is his, as we say, Ishtadev, Nimai. So in this way, this is how he remembers the Lord.
Not even Nimai Pandit, right?
Not
Just
even
Nimai.
Nimai Pandit, just Nimai. Narottam Das was very pleased with the sweet and affectionate words of the Brahmana, and he bowed down again at his feet. His eyes full of tears, he requested the Brahmana to bless such an ignorant person as himself. The Brahmana embraced Narottam to his chest, holding him in his arms for quite some time, soaking him with his own tears. The Brahman informed Narottam Navadvip was a large town wherein he could find many associates of Nimai still present. He directed Narottam to first go to Mayapur and pointed out the road. There, he said, you will find the house of Sachi and Jagannath Mishra. Being directed in this way by the Brahmana, Narottam Das started for Mayapur, passing through the various villages on the way. He frequently asked for directions, and when he at last entered Mayapur, he humbly inquired about the way to Jagannath Mishra's house. Those of you in our listening audience that have had the opportunity to go to Mayapur, you can imagine as when we travel from Calcutta there, going through that road, and as we enter into that last section, and you can see the smaller occasional houses clustering together more like a village, and then we come into the area of Mayapur. When pointed out in the correct direction, when pointing in the correct direction, a person would begin to shed tears and sorrow as he shared with Narottam Das also the same tears. When Narottam finally entered the house of Jagannath Mishra, he saw a kind-looking old brahmachari in white clothes. When the brahmachari saw Narottam Das, he thought, even though his heart had been pierced by misery, I am feeling some relief upon seeing this person. The devotee immediately thought this person must be Narottam Das Thakur, the faithful companion of Srinivasacharya, who had come from Braja with the Goswami's books. He also remembered how Narottam had been attracted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Ramkeli. So this person, we'll find out who this person is in just a moment, but this person apparently knows quite a bit about Mahaprabhu's pastimes and how they interact with other devotees. The devotee inquired from Narottam Das about his name and home, and Narottam replied humbly, giving him all the details. The man in white clothes informed Narottam of his identity, and then tearfully embraced Narottam. Narottam at once fell at the feet of that man. Being unable to control his tears, Narottam cried loudly, lying in the courtyard at the house of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. and the devotee tried his best to console him. However, Narottam could not control his emotions as he lay at the feet of Ishan, a favorite associate of Lord Chaitanya. So this was indeed Ishan Prabhu, who you may remember we spoke about last week, that he was a disciple of Advaitacharya, and when he asked Advaitacharya, what service may I do, Advaitacharya sent him to the home of Sachimata and Jagannath Mishra. Sachimata had just become pregnant at that time, and he said, you go and serve them. So Ishan served Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata. The birth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, came. He engaged himself in the service of Mahaprabhu as a child. Then, of course, Jagannath Mishra passed away. He engaged himself in the service of Mata Sachi and Nimai Pandit. Then Nimai Pandit took sannyas and went away. He engaged himself in the service of Sachimata and Vishnupriya. Then Sachimata passed away, and he engaged himself in the service of Vishnupriya. And as we just read a couple of paragraphs ago, just a few days before now, Vishnupriya has left. Just imagine the emotions that must be there in the heart of Ishan. He's in the house that he has spent his entire life serving in, and one by one he has seen every member of that family depart from this world. Every doorway he walks through, every item he sees, what painful memories this must bring back for him. So we'll hear now. Sri Ishan picked up Narottam Das Thakur and lovingly embraced him while examining his face with great affection. He tearfully told Narottam that it was very kind that he had come at that particular moment. He informed Narottam how he had been able to get news from him from visiting Vaishnavas. Ishan then took Narottam Das to his room, where he met Damodar Pandit. Narottam Das bowed down at the lotus feet of Damodar Pandit, and the Pandit cordially embraced him. He affectionately told Narottam that they had all been waiting for him to come. Damodar repeatedly told Narottam Das how grateful they were that he had come at the moment, because the disappearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was gradually taking away all of their lives. He feared that he might never see Srinivasacharya. Damodar Pandit then introduced Narottam to Sripati, Srinidhi, and others, even those associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who had already departed from this world, came to meet Narottam in his dreams. So this is a very amazing thing which we've read and discussed many times, how even after these great personalities had departed this world, that sometimes they would come and appear before the personality that was hankering to meet them. Narottam spent a few days there, and then decided from here he should go to Nilachala, although he was sorry to leave Nadia. He went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house and requested Ishan Thakur for permission to leave. Ishan Thakur encouraged him to travel quickly to Nilachala, because that most holy place was also descending into utter darkness. Ishan had recently received news from Puri that the mental condition of Gopinath Acharya and others, according to the will of the Lord, was quickly diminishing. Narottam wanted to meet them, to visit Sri Khanda and Kantaka as soon as possible, and then return to Nadia along with Srinivasacharya. Narottam anxiously left Navadvip and started towards Shantipur. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're speaking about the greater Navadvip Dham area, the greater Mayapur realm, if you will. This will include these different outlying regions that are outside of the immediate area of Mayapur and Navadvip. Narottam anxiously left Navadvip and started towards Shantipur. Absorbed in thinking of the pastimes of Advaita Acharya, Narottam lamented. When he came to the village of Shantipur, Narottam Das wept in despair, because he knew he would not see Advaita Acharya, the Lord of Shantipur, who had spent his life living there without any attraction for worldly matters. Out of affection for Narottam Das Thakur, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already informed Advaitacharya's son Achyutananda of his arrival just the day before. So here again we see that even though Mahaprabhu has left the planet physically, he is still the artist, painting the picture by his own brushstrokes of how the devotees will interact with each other. Here it mentions that he has come before Achyutananda just a day prior and let him know that soon Narottam will come. While Sri Achyutananda was waiting for him, Narottam Das Thakur finally arrived in Shantipur. The inhabitants were grief-stricken over the disappearance of Advaitacharya. When Narottam Das stopped to ask someone for directions to Advaitacharya's house, the man burst into tears, simply pointing in the direction and continuing to cry. Out of kindness and affection, Advaitacharya and his associates appeared before Narottam Das, although they were invisible to others. Narottam Das fainted to the ground in ecstatic love, but by the will of the Lord he quickly regained his senses. Having composed himself, he entered the temple and found Achyutananda was waiting there for him. This is a testament, if you will, as to the amazing qualities, the amazing qualification, and the incredible character of Narottam Das Thakur, that these great personalities who have departed from this world appear before him so that they can encourage him. Narottam Das did not have to introduce himself to Achyutananda because Achyutananda had already been given all the information about Narottam by his departed father, Sri Advaitacharya. Narottam Das offered his obeisances to Achyutananda, who was miserably grief-stricken because of the disappearance of his father, and who as a result had been fasting and had become very thin. He impatiently stretched out his hands to embrace Narottam and began crying profusely. Achyutananda sweetly and affectionately told Narottam that he would not be able to keep him for a very long time, as he did not want to cause any delay and waste Narottam's time. He said that Narottam Das should visit Nilachala as soon as possible. Achyutananda then introduced Narottam to the beloved associates of Advaitacharya. They cared for Narottam very lovingly and kept him in Shantipur for 3 or 4 days. Then they gave him permission to start for Nilachala. So we see this amazing thing here. These associates of the Lord are encouraging him, yes, you must go to Nilachala. You must go there. And at the same time, stay here for 3 or 4 days. They're all encouraging each place he goes, but they wanted to stay because they want the association of Narottam Das Thakur, yet they want to share the pastimes that took place with the Lord in the place Narottam is visiting. This is the amazing duality of the devotees. Narottam left Shantipur and quickly crossed the Ganga for the village of Harinadi and reached Ambika, where he saw the deities of Shri Shri Gaurnitai. This refers to the temple of Gauridas Pandit in Ambika Kalna. This is one of the places I've had the good fortune to visit. It's only about a short distance from Mayapur. An hour and 45 minutes, I think, is correct. And if any of you have the opportunity of going to Sri Mayapur, Navadvip, you must go to Ambika Kalna. It's such a sweet, sweet place. Gauridas Pandit was the devoted worshipper of the deities of Shri Shri Gaurnitai, and Narottam Das was greatly impressed to see the method of worship there. Narottam Das bowed before the deities with tears in his eyes. He received the friendly association of Hridoy Chaitanya and the other dear followers of Advaita Prabhu. This is Narahari Chakrabarti speaking here. He says, I shall deliberately not make this section of this book any longer by giving an elaborate description of their conversations. The followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu affectionately cared for Narottam, but also advised him to quickly proceed to Nilachala. At the time of departing, they all began to cry, and after dedicating himself to the mercy of Sri Gauranitai, Narottam left Ambika with a heavy heart. Narottam Das Thakur visited all the villages where the devoted followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resided. He was thrilled to observe the beauty of Saptagram and offers obeisances to that village from a distant place. Saptagram is a place of great spiritual importance because it is a place where the 7 great ascetics had performed austerities, and it is a place where the 3 great rivers, the Ganga, the Jamuna, and the Saraswati, all meet. It is a place of pastimes of Sri Lord Nityananda. Now, we will give a description of Lord Nityananda's intention in choosing Saptagram for his pastimes. On the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was residing in Nilachal at that time, Lord Nityananda went to Bengal. He arrived in Bengal from Orissa, and glorifying that place, he gave it the title of the crown ornament of all holy places. Now, you may remember, this is describing the pastime that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living as a sannyasi in Navadwip, and how we've mentioned many times the devotees would come from Navadvip under the direction of Shivananda Sain. Thank you, my mind froze there. Under the direction of Shivananda Sain, they would come each year for the Rath Yatra festival, and one particular year, Lord Chaitanya took Lord Nityananda aside and encouraged him that please do not come every year like this. You need to stay in Bengal and make your base there, make a place there where you'll preach from and establish the mission there. So in this way, Lord Nityananda followed this instruction of Mahaprabhu, and it mentions that he made his residence here. In this way, Narahari Chakravarti goes on to quote from the Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natika and from the Chaitanya Bhagavat a bit of a description of this place. And then after this leaving here, then Lord Nityananda continued on preaching. This is described for actually several chapters. Several paragraphs here. I'm going to just skip ahead to where we get to Narottam Das Thakur continuing back again. Here we go. Narottam then left this place and in great sorrow continued on. He met the dear personal associates of Nityananda that were still residing there. He walked along the shore of the Ganga, and as he walked, he visited the homes of various devotees. It is not possible to describe the pastimes of Narottam Mahasaya and his emotions as he entered the village of Kadadaha. Lord Nityananda fulfilled Narottam Das's dreams. By Lord Nityananda's will, Narottam Das became peaceful. As he went to see Lord Nityananda's home, Narottam Das met personal associates of Lord Nityananda there. These devotees took Narottam Das to Lord Nityananda's house and informed the mistress of the house of his arrival. Now I guess you can guess who the mistress of the house would be, and that is Vasudha and Janavamatas. They were sitting with Virachandra talking of Lord Nityananda's pastimes. Even though they were filled with sorrow, when they heard that Narottam had come, they became joyful in their heart. In the inner rooms, Narottam Das approached and offered respectful obeisances at their lotus feet. There is no way to describe the mercy that Vasudha Devi and Janava Devi, who know all the truths of the world, bestowed upon Narottam Das. For 2 to 4 days they kept Narottam with them. Together they passed the days and nights tasting the nectar of talking about Lord Krishna and his pastimes. Filled with ecstatic love, they said to Narottam Das, "It is right that you have the title Mahasaya." Now, not only has this title Narottam Das Thakur Mahasaya been given by Jiva Goswami, but now the foremost of Vaishnavas in Bengal, Mother Janavamata, has also confirmed, yes, This is the correct title for you. You are truly a great soul. After speaking many words among themselves, Vishuddha and Janava told Narottam that he should indeed continue his journey to Nilachala. I do not know how to describe Sri Janava's condition at the time of Narottam's departure. A river of tears flowed from her eyes. I cannot describe how Sri Virabhadra, speaking very sweet words, bid farewell to Narottam. Parameshwar Das described the path of Narottam that Narottam should follow. With great affection, Mahesh Pandit and other devotees bid farewell to Narottam. They could not be peaceful. So we see that there are still a number of residents of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who are still present at this time. And as he goes to each of these different holy places throughout the Bengal Navadvip area, he is encouraged by each of them. They give their blessings. They encourage him in his travels and in his journey. Falling to the ground, Narottam Das offered respectful obeisance to each and every one of them. With a sorrowful heart, he departed from Kadadaha. Narottam Das traveled along the path. When he entered a devotee's home, he stopped for a visit. Quickly, in due course of time, he arrived at Kanakula Krishnanagara. There he offered respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Abhiram Thakur. Overcome by feelings of separation from Nityananda, Abhiram Thakur was not in external consciousness. You may remember that Abhiram Thakur was one of the 12 cowherd associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Madhu Mangal, I think.
Yeah. His wife Sri Malini had no senior or peer in her devotional mood. Abhiram and Malini bestowed great mercy upon Narottam Das. Then they commanded him, quickly, go to Nilachala. By seeing Sri Abhiram's condition, Narottam Das became very saddened. Tears flowed from his eyes. But then, by seeing Abhiram's service to his deity, Lord Gopinath, Narottam felt his heart overflow with ecstatic bliss. It is not possible to describe how Narottam Das bid farewell. Wherever he went, Narottam Das met many devotees and associates of the Lord. While remembering the devotees' glories, he shed countless tears. After a very few days, Narottam arrived at Nilachala. So this is how we see the mood of Sri Narottam Das Thakur in his travels to the different holy places throughout Navadvip Dham. The Bhakti Ratnakar gives this description here that we've read here, and there is further information available in this particular pastime in the Prem Vilas and also in the Narottam Vilas. Both of these books also describe this. This is a very important lesson for us because as we consider ourselves to be separated from the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we're actually very close to it. We have the great fortune of these writings of Narottam Das Thakur, of Narahari Chakravarti, being easily available to us. I know many times I've spoken about how there are many different biographies that we would like to be able to have access to, and that we wish there was more information. But these particular books are filled with a lot of information that is very beneficial, and it's not something that's difficult for us to find. I mean, here we are sitting in Alachua. Prabhupada described Gainesville, Florida one time as that most remote corner of the world, far from the abode of Mahaprabhu in Mayapur. This is how Prabhupada described it when he came here. But we're able to have all of these books, Bhakti Ratnakar, Prem Vilas, and the same is for all of you out there listening. These books are available to all of us, and we can read these books and absorb ourselves in these pastimes of this second generation of devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One very nice thing that we can try and do over these next 8 days as we approach Gaur Purnima is maybe chart out a schedule, if you will, between now and Sri Gaur Purnima, what particular topic, what particular book, what particular mood of reading we will try to incorporate into our life each day. So that by the time Gaur Purnima arrives next week, we'll actually have prepared our consciousness. We'll actually have prepared our heart as a suitable place for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates to come and sit. This is described by Srila Prabhupada, that one must purify the heart if we expect that the Lord will sit there. So this is a nice way over these next few days, just a little bit more than a week, that we prepare ourselves by reading these different pastimes, by absorbing ourselves. Now, maybe you don't have access to all these books. You can find them online. Krishna.com has many of these books there, some of them in electronic form, and you can approach them there. And if nothing else, at least you certainly have Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. While this may not have the pastimes of Mahaprabhu's latter associates, which is what the forum primarily is for our Monday night discussions, it does allow us the opportunity through Lord Chaitanya's most empowered representative, Srila Prabhupada, to grasp these words and understand the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is a very, very important thing as we approach Gaur Purnima. We should not let these festival days come and go easily. We should not let them just be, okay, well, tomorrow's Gaur Purnima, I'll do something special that day, then the day's done, and I'll go back to my regular life. We should establish ourselves in a particular way that we build up the enthusiasm. Just like here in America, and I'm sure many of the parts of where I've seen all of our listeners from, these are predominantly Christian-based countries. At Christmas time, the entire atmosphere is built up. Now, from the retail point of view, it's like, 30 days till Christmas, 25 shopping days left till Christmas. And then even in the churches, from the religious point of view, they establish the fact that Christmas is coming, the appearance of Christ, and they have certain activities leading up to that. In the same way, we should take that type of enthusiasm. We should take that type of interest in building up a momentum, if you will, in our personal lives, in our dealings with each other, and in the temples that we live in. Build up a momentum as we approach this Gaur Purnima. And then next week, what we're going to do is, I'll give a little hint here for those of you that are here. We're going to read about the observance of the very first Gaur Purnima festival. This was held by Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, under the direction of Sri Janavamata, and we will discuss the different pastimes there. So if any of you out there in our chat room have some questions, some topics you would like to bring up, Kartika or Mauricio, if any of you would like to throw anything in, Futtas, Yadevi, we're happy to have all of you with us, and if you have any questions you'd like to post at this time, we'd be happy to try and take them. We've made our session a little bit shorter tonight, but the enthusiasm of this particular reading doesn't diminish the time factor in any way, shape, or form. Bhakti Ratnakar, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mangala, Prem Vilas, these are all books that deal with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities and his activities as they're seen through the eyes of his devotees. So this is a very wonderful way to try and prepare ourselves for Sri Gaur Purnima.
So I have a question a little bit off, maybe a little bit off topic, but
if it's about Krishna, it's not off topic. For those of you that may not be hearing, we're getting input here from our trustworthy and dear associate, Abai. He's always here every week with me. What's up, Abai?
You mentioned some weeks back how Srila Gokishore Das Babaji always carried 2 books of Srila Narottam Das Thakur with him. And I don't remember the names. I want to remember.
Well, actually, the 2 books, this is, the 2 books are Prem Bhakti Chandrika and Pratana. Both Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada have all indicated these two books as the main source of developing love of God. That they're that potent. So they're very wonderful books. Those of you out there interested, these books are also available from Krishna.com. We do have a question here from Kartik Devidasi. What did the Lord's wife do for the remainder of her life? Well, I'm assuming you're speaking of Mother Vishnu Priya. And after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we spoke about Vishnu Priya a few weeks ago? Or have we spoken?
I don't think so.
We haven't spoken, okay. Kartik, you've encouraged me. We're going to put Vishnu Priya on our immediate to-do list on personalities that we speak about. She performed great austerities. She would sit in a room and would never allow herself to be visible to anyone, except when she went to the Ganga to take her bath in the morning and then come back. And she would chant the entire day. And she had a deity of Mahaprabhu that she worshipped. And when she was through with that worship, then she would begin her japa. And for every mantra, every full mantra, 16-word mantra, that she chanted, she would place a piece of rice to the side. And as she finished her chanting, then whatever rice she had set aside, she would cook that and eat that after offering to her deity. Cook that, offer to her deity, eat it, and that would be her meal. And in this way she performed great austerities. Some information about her in this regards can be found in the Prem Vilas. And then we'll speak more about her in the shortcoming weeks. Abai will have to remind me to put it on our immediate to-do list. Okay. Namrata has a question. Prabhupada did not elaborate on deity worship in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Where can we find instructions on the same? Well, Namrata, one thing about the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, many of the presentations Prabhupada did when he began, he didn't know how long he would have. And so he did presentations quickly. Teachings of Lord Chaitanya was a condensed, if you will, version of the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna book was a condensed version of the entire 10th canto. So Prabhupada felt it very important to get these two books out, and he put them out and then went back to the expanded versions of them. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 8th or 9th volume. No. Madhya Lila 3rd volume, the pastimes of Madhavendra Puri. Srila Prabhupada goes into detail, quite a bit of detail, about the process of deity worship. And in those purports, in that section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he refers back to the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, to the 9th canto, I believe it is, for further information on deity worship. So if you go to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, and the beginning of the Madhya Lila, the chapters dealing with the devotional service of Madhavendra Puri and his establishing of the Govindaji deity, you'll see information there about deity worship. Yadevi is asking when Srimati Vishnu Priya Devi left this earth. Mahaprabhu lived for 48 years. She departed when she was quite elderly after that, so I don't actually have an exact answer for that, Yadevi. But as I mentioned, we are going to be discussing Vishnu Priya in the next couple of 3 weeks, and I will be sure and have all that information available for you at that time. That'll give us both a little bit of homework to do. Alright, anyone else have any other questions or comments they'd like to add in there? Mauricio, I haven't heard from you. You still out there? Mauricio is one of our longest listeners. He's been there for a very long time, always tuning in, encouraging us in this effort of devotional service. So we're just coming up on the 9 o'clock hour, and with that we do want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight, and once again thank you for joining us in another episode of Lives of the Vaishnava Acharyas. Hare Krishna.